Hello, good afternoon, everyone. We'll just wait for everyone to join us. Just give us a second. We will get started right away, just after another moment or so. Yes, Elena, do you have a question? You can unmute yourself. You should be able to. Yes, what was your question? Okay.
Or maybe you might have to unmute them. If you open like the panelist, sorry, the participant list, I think you might be.
I said allowed to talk.
Oh well.
They lowered their hand though, so fair enough. Okay, well, I guess we will get started then. Oh, no problem. Great. So first, we'd just like to acknowledge that today's webinar is being hosted on the traditional territories of the people of the Treaty 7 region in southern Alberta, which includes the Blackfoot Confederacy, comprising of the Siksika, Piikani, and Kainai First Nations, as well as the Tsuut'ina First Nation and the Stoney Nakoda, including the Chiniki, Bearspaw, and Wesley's First Nations. The city of Calgary is also home to the Métis Nation of Alberta, Region 3. I'll now move on and allow Mark Sly, our Director of IT and Security, to start with his initial presentation. Go ahead, Mark.
Thank you, Shannon. Yeah, so welcome everybody. It's really good to see you. This will be our third webinar for cybersecurity, and with our focus on research this time around, since we're in the top 5 for research, which is a really good accomplishment for our university and for everybody here. And it's because of all of the wonderful people that, such as the ones that are attending this webinar today. And we thought it was a good idea to highlight kind of some tips and tricks for staying cyber secure as a researcher. And I'm here today with Abdel Youssef, who's our Director for Research and Computing Services. And so I'm going to be presenting a little 15-minute presentation on staying cyber secure at home at UCalgary and as a researcher, and I'll focus most of it on the researcher. And then Abdel's going to go over kind of what are our services for researchers and research computing services has to offer researchers and academics in our community. So I'll get started here. So in this slide just kind of shows like some metrics on kind of like the amount of efforts of malicious threat actors that we kind of see that are interested in us, because at UCalgary here we are a target for various actors, whether we are targeted as a specific entity or whether it's just, regular threat actors or activists out there trying to see what they can do with any entity or organization. But some of the numbers I kind of want to highlight with you is like our protections have blocked us about, and it's about an average. So 600,000 malicious websites a month. That's people like clicking on a phishing link or going to a bad site, or the site's been taken over by a threat actor and the Canadian Centre of Cybersecurity has identified that. And so we block that until they fix it. Our email, 80% of our email that we actually receive is spam or some sort of phishing email. And we block that for the people here as a part of our protection practices. And on our desktops, 289 malware on desktops blocked per month. That's pretty average for an organization our size. And we're just glad that we have those layers of protection. You kind of think of cybersecurity as those layers of protection. And so on the next slide here, We're just going to focus on at home. And I'm going to talk a little bit about at home and coming back to work. And then we're going to get into our cybersecurity top 10 for researchers and the University of Calgary for tips and tricks. So I know people are still working from home, and we're moving into this hybrid mode of like a few days at work, a couple days at home, or whatever your schedule is that you've worked out with your leaders or leadership, or that you've decided you're going to do. So some tips on working from home that we provided in the last webinar, we're going to do again here today, is we want you to connect to VPN at least once every 30 days. And what that does is that makes sense, that make sure that your computer's staying up to date and it has all the policies, and we know it's been inventoried and everything like that. We're not watching you. That's not what I mean. It's that we're just making sure that it stays up to date is really what it is. It should be your UCalgary laptop, if that's what you've taken home. That should be your preferred device for doing work-related tasks that's related to UCalgary business. We want to make sure that you have a backup of the things on your desktop, and one way to do that is with OneDrive, if you know what OneDrive is. If not, we're going to provide you a link later in the useful links section on kind of like how to use OneDrive and how to back up your desktop, and so we'll make sure that's there. But we want you to use that, and that'll back up your My Documents folder, the documents that you save on your desktop, and your pictures and things like that automatically. Want to make sure that you update and patch your Mac. So that's like your Apple Mac OS. So if you have an Apple, sometimes you kind of get the little prompt that says, hey, you need to update, and we want to make sure you're pushing that update prompt, because it's not only Microsoft that gets affected by viruses and things like that out there, it's also that. At home, we want you to have a reputable firewall and router, and most of the time it comes with your internet connection, but we just wanted to let you know you can purchase another one. And I don't have any preferred brands or anything like that, but you can go to CNET or Best Buy and see what the top ones are and pick the right one for you. And of course, if you have anything concerns, call UService. UService is always there to help you. They'll get you in touch with the right people in IT. So one thing that I've talked about in the last webinar, and I want to highlight again here for being safe at home, is this CIRA Canadian Shield. So what CIRA is it's a Canadian Internet Registry Authority, and it's a government-funded organization that's paid for with our tax dollars. And they provide a DNS firewall for all Canadians that they can use. And it's kind of, think of it as your internet telephone book, where you type in www.google.com, and it tells you where on the internet you need to go to see that website. And what it does, what this DNS firewall does, if you pick protected or family, it'll block kind of the bad sites out there from getting through to your home network. And this is a little bit more technical. And I realize on the call here, we have some very technical people and we have some very not technical people. So I'm going to try to have something for everybody here. But what you can do is we'll provide the link, and you can go to the link and see how to do it at home. But you can also call your service provider, like Shaw or TELUS or whoever it is, and they can help you get this set up on your home internet router, your home internet devices. That's usually a service they provide. So coming back to work. So everybody's kind of coming back to work over the last month, and some are starting in May, some started in April, some are coming back the month after that in June. But we want to make sure that you do connect your device to VPN to make sure that everything's still working the way it should. And if your computer has been at campus powered off, you can see I'm here at campus today. I'm in the McKinney Tower. And we want you to come in and turn it on a day before you come. And what that's going to do is it's going to allow it to get all of its updates, so you're not going to bog down by that when you come in. And the expectations for people is that they are set up, that you're responsible for setting up your equipment when you come back to work. But if you need help, you can call UService or put in a ticket, and we'll make sure that you get the help you need. Okay, so our top 10 cybersecurity tips is really what we're talking about today. And this is something Abdul and I have been working on with our various teams on what tips out there for researchers, because we know researchers are unique, and we want to ensure that they have the information to help them, or where to get help, or what services they need to use for what they're doing. And just back to the researchers are unique is that, like there's IT managed, and then there's kind of researchers who don't use IT equipment. And we want to make sure that you have these tips and tricks no matter which lane you swim in for that. And so I'm going to run through all 10 and then talk about that a little bit at the end, and I'll summarize it up. So the first one is in our last survey for cybersecurity that we did in October, there was about maybe 2,500 to 28 people that said, hey, I'd really like you to offer free cybersecurity training. And so we've delivered on that. And so we really want you to be educated and aware, which is key to staying cyber secure. And so the following courses that are listed in red here are the ones that we're offering. So we have our privacy training, which is our FOIP general awareness. Once you take that so that you're up to speed on what privacy and FOIP means at the university and what you need to do for those practices. And then for the cybersecurity awareness training, one of our biggest vectors is phishing. And you'll find in the cybersecurity world, there's kind of three things that you kind of get hacked on, or a threat actor takes advantage of you on. And one of them is taking control of your account. And 80% of the time that's through a phishing email. The second one is not patching, and we're going to go over that. And the third one is misconfiguration. We'll go over that too. But the reason why I'm bringing those up now is the cybersecurity IT introduction to phishing. That's going to give you a good introduction to the phishing training, and you'll know what to do and what not to do, and what to click and what not to click. And then for the introduction to research security and cybersecurity for researchers, that is actually the ISED training. So for those of you that know what ISED is, it's the granting agency that for some granting that comes up for researchers, and they require this on some types of research now. So we have that in our enterprise learning management for you to take advantage of. And the software development one, again, really technical one, probably not for everybody here, but if you do software development in your research group, if you use the LinkedIn Learning, you can search for the OWASP Top 10, and it'll tell you the best practices for developing web applications and software development and what not to do from a cyber perspective. So number two, backing up your data regularly. We want to ensure that you have at least 2, or better yet, 3 copies of your data, so that we can fight off from a disaster or from a ransomware incident should it occur. Abdel's going to go into the data management plan stuff in his one, so I'm not going to talk about that point. But we always want you to encrypt your backups. And that's like, if you have a little Western Digital that you carry around, you want to make sure that you encrypt it with the vendor's device encryption. And it usually prompts you when you plug it into your computer and says, do you want to turn encryption? The answer should be yes. And that's if somebody walks away with your hard drive, they can't get your information on there, or it makes it more difficult. Password best practices. It's a broken record for cybersecurity. It's kind of always like, yeah, have a good password, have a good password. And so we're just providing you some tips and tricks here. And, we want you to use strong passwords across your devices, your servers, your software, or your applications. And please don't reuse them across them, because that's kind of how somebody moves what's called lateral movement. They move from one device to the next device to the next device with the same username and password if you've used them on all the same. And if you're a software developer, don't hard code it in your software, even if it's encrypted. We still, it's still not a good practice to be in there. We want you to use strong authentication, and Calgary provides that, like multi-factor authentication and things like that. But if you do it on your own or use cloud services, you want to turn that multi-factor authentication on as well. On all your devices, you want to make sure you change the default passwords on all of them. And it's okay to use a password manager. And we usually have a lot of questions on that, so I'll leave that for the Q&A, but it's okay to use a password manager. And it's a helpful thing to help you remember all your passwords out there. So number 4, updating and patching your devices. This is one of the best defenses of protecting your operating system or your devices from viruses and malware and online threats. You can remember back in the news in December, January, there was this thing called Java Log4j, and it was this worldwide event where there was a unpatched vulnerability in a certain type of software, and IT spent hours patching it before the Christmas break and after, and that's part of the services you get with IT. But it's not just limited to like your desktop computer or your servers. It's also TVs, your external hard drives. There's one out there right now for your researchers on this call that use QNAPs. There's a big security patch out there for QNAPs right now. You want to go and do that one. And even your TVs and your ovens at home, you want to turn on that, hey, let's update automatically. And then you kind of don't have to worry about it too much anymore. You should always check to make sure it's working though. So be aware of who's accessing your systems. This is just if you do have run your own server or you do run your own web application and you add users to it, you just want to make sure you review those regularly and make sure who's accessing it is who you know they are. And if you don't know them or they haven't been on for a long time, just wipe them out. And if you're accessing anything remotely for you, Calgary, to your server or your workstation, use our VPN. It's a great service for you to get in securely. So thinking about privacy, so making sure that you're informed on data classification, and Abdel's going to go into this in his one, so I won't focus on that, but what if a breach happens? I want everybody here to know that breaches happen, and it's unfortunate that they happen, but you're not going to get in trouble for it. This is something that happens to everybody. And what we want you to do is we want you to report it to the FOIP office and IT immediately so that we can help you. And that's our job, is we're here to help you with breaches. And we want to make sure we're maintaining communication, and we're going to walk you through the mitigations we need to do and make sure the right levels of leadership are involved, or on the research side, the ethics board, if we need to. So the point there is talk to us. Don't be afraid to come to us. Number 7, phishing emails. Watch out for those malicious phishing emails and texts. You know, they're coming in on your phone these days too, and it's hot and heavy. And, you know, my wife complains about it a lot. But, you know, you want to watch for unsolicited emails, weird attachments that you didn't expect from somebody, hidden links. Always check the URL before you click the link. Spoof senders. So, whoa, is that really Mark Sly, or is that, you know, Mark Sly from some other place that's not? I don't know. You know, and if somebody's directing you right to a login page, sometimes that can be a little tip that something's wrong there. And urgent requests, you know, they will try to command and control you and make you feel it's urgent. And we always want you to report phishing to us. So if you think it's a phish, use our report phishing at UCalgary. And sending bulk emails, try to avoid clickable links, and do not direct web pages that ask for your username and password. Try to go to a landing page and then they can click on with a UCalgary address. We have a great travel program from the Risk Management and Insurance Office, and we want you to use that. We have a loaner device program for people who are doing UCalgary business when you go to other countries or wherever you're going, and we want to help you with that. So it's a good link there for you to do that. Here's just another couple quick things on other good cyber hygiene practices, and all of these are available on our website, which we'll give you the link for. But, you know when your devices are end of life, because they're usually somewhat vulnerable because the vendor isn't patching them anymore. Only use trusted applications. Running an antivirus is still a good thing. You always want to run an antivirus. It's still healthy on your operating systems. Sometimes they don't have it on tablets and things like that yet, but you know, if you can run one, you should. And turn your firewall on. You want to make sure that you're protected from the internet if you're connecting directly. And what I'll leave you with is we want you to use IT. It's your best protection against cyber threat actors. You know, we're here to help you. We offer you a great amount of services, and Abdel's going to run you through all of those with his presentation for researchers and academics. And I wanted you to know that UCalgary IT and the FOIP office, we offer technology threat risk assessments and privacy impact assessments. And that's here to help you. And that'll also help you with your ISED requirements for those of you that have to meet those requirements and they need a threat risk assessment or a privacy impact assessment. And so we're here to help you. And please always report cybersecurity incidents. And I'm going to hand it over to Abdel now for his presentation on research computing services. And he's going to talk to you about the services we have to offer you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mark. Share the screen. Okay. Thank you, Mark. My name is Abdel. So I'm the Director of Research Computing Services. I have a couple of slides before I can start actually talking about the services. So any service that research computing offers is actually cyber safe. Why I'm saying this, because it has to go through the design, architecture, and security reviews before we can actually, implement and deliver that service to the research community. So these top 10 cybersecurity guidelines that Mark spoke about are kind of built in or enabled with all of the IT and RCS services. The services, as the the group name implies, actually is more tuned toward research requirements to enable innovation, and it's designed for the entire life cycle of a research project. For non-RCS services, we will be able to actually send you in the right direction and getting the right resources from central IT. Our services are institutional, meaning the university invested in the infrastructure and in the team that actually built these services. So it is cost effective and easy to access by the research community. Our model is based on a very simple approach, which is we build a sizable institution infrastructure and services to allow researchers to consume the services with minimum wait time and the ability to scale out if needed. You don't have to, I'm not going to talk about this slide in details. The point I'm trying to make here is that any service that we offer is actually based on the classification of the data, research data that the researcher use in the research. Generally speaking, level 1 and level 2 data, public and internal use data, this is the kind of data that if there is a disclosure or a breach or a loss of data, it will create some kind of inconvenience to the university, but it's not going to have a financial loss or reputational damage in the university. On the other hand, if you're talking about level 3 and level 4 data, this is confidential, restricted data that if indeed this data is exposed, then it is subject to privacy and security safeguards under the law, policy, and contractual agreements. So the loss of this information could actually significantly harm the reputation of the university. It might actually have a financial impact as well. So there is a link here for the security classification standard. Please take a look at it because it's the researcher's responsibility when they come to research computing to define which level of data security their data actually represent. Okay, now I can talk a little bit about the services. So there's some foundational services that research computing has been offering for some time now. And what we're trying to do is to cover the research data management through the research data lifecycle or project, especially in the active phase of the data, from collecting data from devices, doing quality control over this data, storing this data, creating databases for different stages of between generating metadata and actually running some computational work on this data. So we take care of this part of the research data lifecycle through a number of systems that we offer to researchers. And when Mark talked about backing up your data, just in case you're hit with, say, a cyber attack of some kind, like a ransomware, you have another copy of your data somewhere else where it allows you to recover from that cyber attack. And some of the systems that we have, like Academic FS, is dedicated for level 1 and level 2 data. Now you see why I'm specifying or talking specifically about the data security level. So Academic FS is geo-replicated. You have 2 copies. You can start with 100 gigabytes per research project, but the demand that we're seeing today in the terabytes of requests. OneDrive, so you can actually store any level of data security there, level 1 to level 4. Starts again at 100 gigabytes to initially 4 terabytes, but it can be extended. You have to send a request asking for the full amount, which is 25 terabytes. We also have internally secure compute data storage for level 4. You get 2 copies again, and this is, as I said, replicated, which means that if one data center goes down, then the other data center you can actually bring up your data using the other copy. I'm going to talk about the high performance computing infrastructure. And that's a very large kind of infrastructure that requires a lot of data storage in the petabyte size. So for that, we augmented the current system with bulk storage to help with the backing up your data with your high performance compute infrastructure. We will have a platform refresh and upgrade coming in 2023. It will add new features to the storage infrastructure and will definitely simplify the operational side of it. So as Mark said, again, you need to back up your data to protect against data loss in case of a data breach or ransomware. If you want to know more, if you have a need for data backup, just send an email to support@hpc.ucalgary.ca. High performance computing, another foundational service that research computing offers. Essentially, you can think of it as a big frame, like a large number of compute nodes working together to solve computationally complex problem, right? And currently it's only for level 2 data for ARC. We have around 16,000 CPU cores, some GPU nodes as well. It handles tens of millions of file transactions per second. For example, bioinformatics is well suited to actually use this kind of infrastructure, and they do use HPC for that kind of research. Again, if you need HPC infrastructure, you have a request, send to the same email. There is a lot of growth in this area. The top graph shows the number of users, registered users throughout since Jan 2019, and we're seeing around 50% year-over-year growth. As far as large projects, medium to large projects, we're also seeing growth in that area as well. Research computing services also support our researchers in Compute Canada infrastructure. That is the national infrastructure where there is 5 national sites, data centers, where they also provide high performance compute as well as virtual machine, they call it cloud infrastructure as well. There is more emphasis on the local infrastructure now than the national infrastructure. That doesn't mean we're not seeing growth. We are seeing growth in the Compute Canada side, but it's at a slower rate, around 1% year over year. For our infrastructure, we're seeing between 5 and 7% starting 2020 and going forward. So again, if you want to apply and compete for infrastructure in Compute Canada, please connect with the team. Same email here, and will help you actually get access to some of that infrastructure as well. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the evolution. So I talked about foundational services, stuff that we've been offering for a long time. So in 2020, we launched a fully featured secure compute platform just for level 4 data. So that platform allows researchers, say in the medical field, for example, to store their data securely and share their data, collaborate with other researchers within and outside the University of Calgary through a secure network that allows you to move around like level 4 data freely between sites. The secure compute platform has a medical advanced research computing cluster, HPC, for level 4 data, and virtual machine Windows-based infrastructure as well, if you want to do a pre-analysis before you submit your jobs to the HPC infrastructure. So the seed funding from this project came from the School of Medicine. There is growing demand, as you can see here. If you go to this link, we have rich training site here with lots of documentations and video training as well. So I encourage you to use that system if you have level 4 data. This is only one of 2 systems across Canada that actually provide this kind of service. The other one exists at the St. Kitts Hospital in Toronto. So we really are privileged to have such a system available to our research community, and the growth is there, and we're encouraging researchers to actually keep using it. Some people ask, I mean, is this just for science, engineering, and medical school? No, like HPCs across the board, as you can see here. So it covers like there's economics and psychology, school of arts, school of public policy. And the matter of fact, we just deployed the largest big mem server for the School of Public Policy in the HPC cluster that we have. Again, School of Business, Humanities, even teaching and learning, we have what we call TALK, Teaching and Learning HPC cluster. So I'm just trying to encourage you to, think of, your research application, and if it can be mapped into something like, an HPC workflow, because it's going to speed up your results significantly. So based on a grant that Research Computing got like a couple of years ago, we actually built an HP cluster for commercial use. University of Calgary essentially trying to help small companies to accelerate their R&D through the use of this commercial HPC pilot. If you try to go to Amazon or Microsoft Azure, for example, or to get this service, it's very cost prohibitive. It's 10 times what you would get from using the New Calgary pilot that we're offering here. But really, the main advantage here is supports our research community's own spin-offs and innovation strategy. So if you have a company, or if you want to use your data, your research data, spin off a company or something like that, then we should be able to help you do this and accelerate your innovation in that area. The service was launched last September, and we're already having some companies either using the service or actually we're waiting for them to sign the agreement, and a few more in the pipeline. So next month, May 2nd, we'll launch a new service again. It's called CloudStack. We do know that our researchers, as Mark said, sometimes use non-IT managed services. And what we're trying to do here is to entice them to think about, moving into research computing services with this CloudStack offer, which is basically virtual machine, Linux virtual machine infrastructure. And they will get a lot of freedom as to what kind of software they deploy, how to manage it. But they get the advantage that, will be essentially providing them with hints as to, when they need to patch their software, the application, the OS, and so forth. So it will be managed mainly by the researchers themselves, so that there is no reason why they would, create or use their own laptops, like unmanaged laptops, for example, to create these workflows. Okay, so the last one is the Canary project. Canary project is, again, was based on a grant, a federal grant, Research Computing received 2 years ago. And we were focusing on helping researchers build their own research software, and in a modular way, and so that we can allow reusability of software, and essentially help them with their front-end data pipeline software, like data collection, transfer of data, storage, and processing of data. And we've made a great progress in this area. As you can see here, this is just an example of one project that's motivated through the use of genomics and neuroimaging kind of data, and integrating this data and actually, running some machine learning algorithms in order to, generate some insights out of this data. And what we discovered is that we can partition the entire life cycle of that project into file management side, which is, it could be local, it could be, file transfers globally, as we have seen with the imaging side of this data. Also, the team can help with, finding the right software, research software for you. For example, LIMS here means Lab Information Management System. So it's a platform, that or a database that can be used to actually integrate this kind of data, and then feed it into data management platforms like LabKey, which is specific to lab information. And parallel to that, the imaging side, we can actually find the right tools that you can use and then integrate all of this together and then feed it into a model, the part that the researcher is focusing on. Also can help you monitor your workflow, right? Just in case, one weak point in the workflow fails, then you need to know like this right away instead of waiting for the next day or 2 days, before you know there is an error in one of the scripts, for example. When you wrap all of this together, you're talking about a workflow management system, essentially automating the entire process. So my last slide here, sorry I took time, is starting like 8 months ago, we focused more on the automation of the entire life cycle of a research project. What this does is that we can definitely, provide support for what I call silent, applications like storage, like HPC, like Cloud Stack. But the real value comes when you integrate all of this into one big, like modular, lightweight workflow that's automated through specialized tools. And that's what the Canary team is able to help you with. And really, when you think about the evolution, what we're trying to do is meet what the research office strategy has been saying all along. You've been hearing about research data management, open science, the DORA declaration, the Declaration of Research Assessment. So granting agencies are putting more emphasis on these concepts now. So we've been very proactive, kind of trying to think of the technology side of it, which is a huge part of it. So we're talking about advanced technology that need to be in place so that in a year or two, when all these concepts are in place, researchers will have to find a way to actually implement these concepts. And what we're trying to do is be there ahead of other universities, to be honest, to be ready for when our researchers come and ask for these kind of services. Just to acknowledge the team, I'm gonna leave this slide with you. The team is a number of data scientists, software developers, and HPC solution architects and system admins. And I just want to acknowledge the hard work and the smart work that this team has been doing. So I'm gonna leave the names with you. Finally, this is our website. I mean, you go to this website and you'll get most of the information I was talking about. We'll keep updating the website and to make sure that we answer any questions that our researchers actually might have. Okay, thank you.
All right, so we'll move on to Q&A. We have a number of questions in there as well as a few in the chat. Depending on who is going to answer them, you can just start as you like, and I will move you to the spotlight.
Sure, I could start by answering some questions in the chat. So yes, Stacy asked, what does it mean to connect to VPN? So that's what that is with your work machine or your home machine, that's what creates kind of a secure connection to the Calgary network. And on the useful links page in my presentation, there's a how to connect to VPN in there, and it'll walk you through how to do all of that. And it's something that's already on your Calgary laptop for you to use to connect securely when you're at home or whether you're traveling. Hopefully that answers your questions. And kind of just to some of, like, that was a great presentation, Abdel, thank you. And like, what amazing services we have for researchers. And it's been great working with Abdel to secure them all. And really the big thing is we're trying to get people to care. And I hope my presentation doesn't make anybody feel like scared of cyber threats out there. They're out there, we have to live with them. The point is to be aware and to care about them. And that's the culture of cybersecurity I'm trying to build here at the university. Sorry, my team's trying to build here at the university, is that we want people to care. And so, yeah. Again, we answered the high performing computing ones. If I have been pwned website shows breaches, is there any action to be taken? Great question. So what the I have been pwned, PWNED, is it's a website you can go and you can put your your email address in, and it'll tell you if there's been any websites out there that have had your email address in it where the username and password database has been breached. So that means a threat actor has taken it and they put it on it's called the dark web, or like, where hackers go to get information on people. And if you see your account on there and you haven't changed your password since the date that company had the breach, you want to go and change your password. And if you did use that password on any other accounts with your email address, you want to go and change all of those too. And that's what I was saying in the kind of the strong password session is you want to use a password manager. They're a great tool for the regular person and even the advanced person, and it makes life easier. I know it makes life easier for my parents who are, in their 70s and, getting older. And so it works for all ages there on that one. So look up those tools and we'll provide you a good link on useful tools from the Canadian Centre of Cybersecurity too. Yeah. Does the website blocking refer to blocking via the university Wi-Fi? So when you're on the university campus, we do have layers of protection in place to block websites. Like I was saying at the start, we blocked 600,000 bad websites this past month. And it's a similar service to that home one I was talking about that's taxpayer funded. And we have a couple other ones that watch for different malicious sites and activity for transiting our network and things like that. And so, yes, the answer is yes. It would be applied to our university Wi-Fi, our residents and guests and all of that stuff. We block the bad websites from those ones. They've had a problem since November. That's you. Okay, so Diane, yeah, it's best to put in a ticket, and if you don't get an answer or they don't fix it, you can always in ServiceNow you can use the escalate. You can use the escalate button. There's a little escalate button and you can have your ticket escalated if it doesn't get resolved, and then it'll go to the next level of support, and eventually it'll go to the manager or associate director of the area and director. They'll be able to help you out to make sure you get your help. So please connect on ServiceNow and put a ticket in. And I know that might be frustrating to hear.
I've put the ticket in, I think 5 or 6 times, and they've put the VPN on each time. Yeah. And it still doesn't work.
Okay.
And it worked fine until November. And then since then, it does not work. So someone's going to try it again tomorrow, but I think it's going to be the same thing that I faced.
Okay, thanks, Diane. I'm just making a note of your name here. And
it also does this to me on campus. Okay. Hardwired.
Okay. I will, let me follow up with that team there since they're connecting with you tomorrow, and I'll see what we can do. So thanks for bringing that up. Yeah. Can you use this alongside current security? Oh, so I think you're referring, Lauren, I think you're referring to the Sierra DNS firewall I was talking about earlier. So it is just, the Sierra DNS is just another layer of cybersecurity protection you can use in your home. It does not replace your antivirus or anything like that. So you do want to use it alongside your other security things like you said there. So yeah. And how strong do you consider using Google to remember passwords with MFA and a unique password on the Google account? So that's from Anonymous. So I'll do my best to kind of answer the question. So I know there's kind of like the Google Authenticator and things like that can help you with storing passwords. I'm not sure if that's what you're referring to. But any of those ones, usually from Google or whoever, they're usually pretty good as long as you're not sharing the password out for your Google account with anybody else. Sean Murray is actually here to help us with questions on the more technical cyber questions. Sean, I don't know if you have anything to add to that, or what they're talking about there.
Yeah, they might actually be talking about the Google browser remembering your passwords, and that's actually not considered to be that strong. There's quite a few ways to break into that password store if they happen to get on your system.
Yeah, so that goes back to picking a password manager like Password One or Dashlane, or there's several out there. Research which one's right for you, and those ones will integrate with your browser as well, and they're a little bit more secure, like Sean was saying. The NSERC cybersecurity recommendations in the new guidelines. Yeah, so those are the new guidelines from ISED, I believe, Abdul, what he's talking about there. So I'll answer the cyber part of it, and then you can answer anything I miss there. Is part of it, you kind of read through it and you kind of see the 4 things they say you need to do from a cybersecurity perspective. One of them is like talk to your CIO about cybersecurity training, and those are the ISED courses that we've added to our Enterprise Learning Management Center, where you can go in there and you can actually take the ISED courses, and that would apply to your application. Another piece of it is did you have a threat risk assessment if you're working with third parties like a cloud provider or whoever? And the answer is IT has services for that. And Abdel might have services that you want to use where it already meets all of the requirements. And if you want to go with the cloud vendor, then we can do a threat risk assessment or a privacy impact assessment on that from the FOIP office to assist you there with that. So Abdel, I don't know if you have anything to add to that question.
No, yeah, absolutely right. I mean, yeah, so even with the, I want to go back to the ISED training. The ISED training is, you can consider it as a summary of the, the Tri-Council recommendations regarding cybersecurity research. Yeah, so I think we're covered here.
Okay, good.
So I guess let me just answer one of these questions. I'll take it back, give back to you. So maybe an example of what HPC can do, like what type of project. So for example, if you're doing computational chemistry or biology, and what you have here is a very complex algorithm that needs to go through simulation through a huge number of states. If you use one server or one laptop, it might take you a year or two to finish that simulation session. Instead, if you go to HPC, essentially what you do, you're using a lot of servers that run in parallel, and you parallelize your simulator in a way that executions happens in parallel. And instead of waiting for a year on a single server, you can actually do it in a few hours using 100 servers, for example, in HPC. So it is used to accelerate science. And a couple other examples, like big like machine learning models, you would use like HPC for that as well. Okay. Mark, back to you.
Great. I see there's some questions in the actual chat here too that I've been missing. So is the keychain in the Apple iOS sufficient as a password manager? Yes, I think that's considered a good one. You can store passwords in there. And I would consider that, relatively secure. Again, you want to make sure you turn on, multi-factor or two forms of authentication to get into your Apple account. I wouldn't do it if you didn't have that turned on. I get an email every night that there's a quarantine. Yeah, the quarantine is legit, and those are emails where it's like, are we sure it's not good, or are we sure it's good? And that's why we have, like, Microsoft provides that service. It's a layer of protection. Sometimes it can be quite frustrating for people because it gets it wrong. But if once you say release and you say it's not junk mail, it shouldn't happen again from that sender. And that happens with a lot of providers. It's a common complaint in the industry for email management. Would you recommend Bitwarden for password management? I think you got to pick the right password manager that's right for you. And so, you can use the Canadian Center of Cybersecurity site. They have, which will provide a link to in the useful links, and they have kind of the things you want to look for in a password manager. And I would use that and then pick the right one for you. Yeah, I don't want to give a preference here.
There is a question about data pipelines. So what is the best practice to share assumed data acquired in instruments with users who discuss best pipeline offered by research community services? You can reach out to the same email that I provided in the presentation. So one of the Canary team members will respond. And to research computing, it's a discussion, right? We really need to understand your workflow, how you source your data, where you source your data, and how you're going to stage your data, what kind of processing you need to apply or even to store, right? So send an email to support@hpc.ucalgary.ca. They'll get back to you within a couple of hours usually. There was a question regarding AHS data, Alberta Health Services. So we do have an agreement with AHS that through research collaboration like Calgary and AHS researchers, we would be able to actually provide the secure compute data storage, level 4 data, to our AHS researchers as well. But it has to be through a research agreement between the Calgary and AHS researchers. So technically, it's not a problem. It can be done. It's just that the governance side need to be in place.
Good. And there's a good question from Marissa. When external agencies are sending the University of Calgary sensitive data for research purposes, we are seeing those agencies impose requirements on Calgary to create an appropriate data incident response protocol. Are there any resources available to researchers within IT to work with them in developing an appropriate protocol to meet those obligations? So the answer is yes, we do have all of those protocols, and I would strongly recommend working with Abdel's team and Research Computing Services on your data management plan on what you're doing with that, because they have services where we can store level 4 data and it's been approved. And if the external agency wants to talk to us as being a partner with us, I've gotten on calls with various agencies. One time we've got on a call with a large grocery store and things like that because a researcher was working with them. And once we kind of had the conversation about what our cyber program is and how we do things and what services we offer, everything was okay after that. And we can provide some written statements on some things, but we don't have like an ISO certification or a statement of compliance version 2 type 2. It's called a SOC 2 type 2. But we can work with those external agencies and who are partnering with us to make sure that the requirements they have, we meet them. And I can tell you in 99% of the cases, 99.9 probably, we would meet those requirements for that protocols that they require for incident management. And we do have incident and breach management protocols and checklists and run books, whatever they want to call them at the agency, and it works well. Yeah. So, okay. Is it a good practice to set a password for Zoom meetings? Yes. Yes, the answer is yes. Zoom bombing still happens out there, although it's kind of Zoom's worked on improving their security. But yes, I still recommend putting a password on it, especially if you're talking about sensitive information. And there's good practices. If you go to the IT website in ServiceNow, you can search for knowledge base articles and it'll tell you the security best practices for Zoom, and it can help you out there. Best practice to share acquired on an instrument with users. Who to discuss the best pipeline offered? Oh yeah, so that's Abdel. Did you already answer that question, Abdel? For Karen,
Yep.
I think you did. Yeah. May have missed it, but what if we store stuff on OneDrive? Is it backed up in multiple physical locations? So OneDrive, yes, it's a Microsoft service that we subscribe to here at the University of Calgary for all of our accounts, and it is stored in Canada in multiple data centers in Canada. We don't store our data outside of Canada for that stuff. So yeah, the answer is yes. Yeah. Good question. Okay, I think I got them all. Did I miss any questions there, Jessica or Shannon?
No, I don't believe so. And I think a number of the questions were answered by Sean as well. Thank you for helping out in the back there.
Good. Yeah.
Mark, I do see a few hands up.
I do see a few hands up. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. If you want to unmute and ask your question, we're here to answer anything.
Claudia, why don't you go first and then we can do Stacy and Diane after that. Okay, we'll see.
Seems like a legacy hand.
Yeah, maybe you should just hand it up for a while. Stacy too. I don't know, Stacy, if you had any questions. And Diane, was your hand up from previous, or do you have another question?
It's another question. If we back everything up on OneDrive, what happens when we retire? Can we negotiate to have that still there if we're still writing and it's secure? Or how does that
Yeah,
work?
that's a good question. So normally when you retire, what happens is, you can request from your manager for you to keep your retirement account. It's part of like our services here. So you can ask for that. And so the answer is if that gets approved, all of your data would still be there for you when you retire. Yeah. And there's also different types of research persons of interest is what they're called. And if you fall into that type of person of interest at the university where you get to keep your account for forever, then same thing, your OneDrive data would stay there as long as you didn't delete it. Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Just adding on quickly to what Mark was saying, Jennifer from Privacy here. Just want to reiterate that keeping your account, whether it's your email account, OneDrive, is not a guarantee. It's absolutely at the manager's discretion, and it's going to depend on what type of information you've been involved in, any projects, how sensitive the data is that might be flowing through and to those accounts. If you are knowing that you're going to end your relationship with the university, whether by retirement or any other method, I would recommend that you figure out a backup plan in the event that it's not approved to continued access to that account. It's just going to make things easier on both sides.
Yeah, that's great points. Thank you, Jennifer. We only got 3 minutes here, but I definitely wanted to thank everybody for attending with us today. And we got one more question there on SCDS. Data should be stored to SCDS at the end of the project.
Well, if it's labeled for data, yeah. But OneDrive is also like certified for that. But again, we usually recommend using OneDrive if you're not going to process your data. It's just storing your data. If you want to process your data, then Secure Compute is the right place to store level 4 data.
Yeah,
that's the distinction.
Yeah, there's a question in the questions about how do you feel about Dropbox? Now, Dropbox is a good service, but our supported cloud storage for that type of service is Microsoft OneDrive and Microsoft Teams. And then if it's research data, Abdel has Secure Compute and Academic FS, like he was talking about, to support researchers. But so for University of Calgary Business, we want you to use University of Calgary services, not Dropbox. Yeah.
I'm just going to jump in here for 1 second. I see a question just popped up in the chat relating to a previous question. Do we always keep our email accounts even after finishing with U Calgary? The answer to that is it depends. More often than not, we lean towards the no. There are certain situations when you may keep your email account if you're an alumni, but again, it's going to depend on what type of information is flowing through the account, whether the account was a general account that needs to be kept on our side for business continuity. So again, if you know your relationship with the university is going to be ending, it's a good practice to remove everything you need. As our information and IT standard, it does permit occasional personal use, but it's limited personal use. There is no guarantee that after you depart the university, you will A, keep the email address, and B, that you'll be allowed access back into it. That access needs to happen through the FOIP office. We actually go in and remove all your personal records if you decided you needed those. So it's a complex process, and I would recommend that you remove it all ahead of time.
Great points. Thank you, Jennifer. Yeah. We offer sessions on OneDrive. We don't offer sessions, but we do have like knowledge base articles on how to use it. And one of the useful links that's in my presentation is how to back up to OneDrive, and it'll give you really good information on that. And so we'll send that out after this. And we only got 1 minute left, but I want to thank everybody for coming, and thank you so much for your interest in cybersecurity. One of the biggest things you can do for cybersecurity is just being aware and reporting if you see something, and we really want you to do that. And at the University of Calgary here, we're offering a lot of dynamic and agile services for researchers through Abdel's team, and we want you to use them. You want to use them because I feel you will be more secure using our services, And if you want a discussion on that, Abdel's team's always free and open, and I can join if any of his conversations, if ever needed, or somebody from my team can, to help with those security questions. So really
Yeah,
appreciate
absolutely. Yeah. Research computing is definitely, client oriented. I think we can provide a lot of value to our researchers. We're trying to, bring them into IT and talk and have a discussion. And my promise is we'll deliver a very good service to you guys. So thank you very much.
Will, I see you have your hand up there if you want to ask your question. I think we probably have time to answer it.
Yeah, my point when I made that comment that data should be stored on SCVS at the end of the project is that OneDrive is not meant for permanent storage of any personal health information. It'll be untraceable, that data, after anybody's departure. So the idea is we want that data to be moved to SCVS, where we will know the ethics approval project number under which it was collected, a project number. We'll get a fair amount of metadata for that project so that we will know where that project data belongs and for how long we'll need to maintain.
Yeah, so I think in one of the slides, I did mention that 2023 will see a different platform, and that platform will probably cover this area here, like long-term storage, archiving of encrypted level 4 data. So we're very excited about that service as well. To your point, we use Secure Compute today and OneDrive just as an interim solution, but it's not meant for long-term storage, as you know. I mean, I'm not saying anything new here, but we're looking forward to 2023 to bring in this new platform that we're gonna, in my mind, gonna change the whole picture of research data management.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks. And hopefully we'll be able to touch on that in some of the next sessions. But for those of you who don't know who Will is, he's the VoIP and privacy coordinator over at the Cummings School of Medicine. And so if you have any VoIP or privacy questions over in Cummings School of Medicine, Will's your man. So Diane, looks like you have another question.
No.
Okay. I think alumni can keep their emails is another question here. As long as you log in once per year, you do not log in after 12 months, period, the account will automatically be deleted and it cannot be reactivated. Yes, that's true. Yeah, so you can get an alumni email if you're an alumni here, and then you don't log in for a year, you lose it. That's our process here. Yeah. Okay. Well, that's our time. We're over. I don't want to keep people because they probably got other meetings to run to, but Research Computing Services is here to help you out. IT is here to help you out, and cybersecurity works with both. And thanks again for a wonderful session and great questions. We'll see you next time.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good day.
Bye.